Hi, I'm Erin Larkin and this is John Jens, and we're doing something today that is purely born out of curiosity and interest, as most good wine videos should be actually. We're here to talk about the upcoming 2016 Henschke Hil of Grace release, but the cool part about what we're going to do today is we're going to compare it to the great, exciting, unbelievable 2015 Henschke Hil of Grace, just for a bit of comparison because comparison's fun. But we also have the great honour of looking at the 2016 Hil of Roses. This is a young vine wine from the Hil of Grace vineyard, Shiraz. The vines haven't come of age yet. So we get to have a look at that in context as well. And then just because we had them and I wanted to see them, we've also got the 2016 Mt Edeltston, the 2018 Tappas, and the 2016 Kington Euphonium. So we're going to start with the little guys first, and we're going to move our way up. So, John, do you want to lead us in with this 2016 Kington Euphonium?
Okay, love to. So, I'm 72. Henschke have been a part of my wine life since I've been very young. A little bit even younger than Erin is now. And they were revered. In my household, very big seller, very old wines, great wines. Henschke were revered. They were the great wines. Didn't try this till years later. Became part of everything that I did for many, many years. Looking at them now here, love the style, love the character. Plenty of fruit, more spicy than any of the others.
Yes.
Mid-range weight, almost enveloping for its price range. It's just around about $60. And I know because I checked a few minutes ago. And lightly structured, so plenty of length, plenty of power, not big and strong, not huge and juicy, not typical Barossa-like, just refined, elegant, classy, spicy, lovely oak down either sides, value for money. And as a restaurateur, would I buy it to put on the wine list? Would I buy it to sell by the glass? Definitely, and every time. Love the style. What I'd like to do, if I can, diverge a little bit, very distinctive looking bottles, very distinctive looking capsules. If you put these on a shelf in a restaurant, you've got a series of racks in a restaurant, and it's very impressive seeing a whole lineup of Henschke wines lined up like that. Steve Henschke dropped in one day and was looking and going, whoa, pulled out his camera and going, I don't blame him, it looks really good. You put these on a restaurant wine shelf, on a restaurant wine rack, restaurant wine list, they just sell. You look around a couple of weeks later and think, God, where did all that go? Quite amazing. People love Henschke. Oh,
quite right. That's never happened before. Lucky I've got carpet. Something that I probably should tell you about this is that this is the only outlier in this company, in that this is a Shiraz Cabernet Merlot Cabernet Franc blend. The rest are 100% Shiraz. That's evident actually because I think a blend is in existence because it is at the end of the day greater than the sum of all of its individual parts, and this is a beautifully balanced, fine, layered wine. It's still got Barossa balls about it. Like, it's still gravelly and muscly and kind of red fruited and savoury, but it's a really fine expression. It's a beautiful wine. Jumping across into the second wine, this is into the great 2018 vintage. So 18 was a cracking, ripping year in WA, and I tell everyone that all of the time. You're probably sick of hearing it, and that's fine. That's fine. But I was just recently in the Barossa, like I got back last night, and everyone that I asked about the 18 vintage, just to get a bit of context, because lots of the reds being released, they're currently at 18, everyone said the same thing. 18 was as good over there as it was here, which is a really fantastic kind of entree into this wine. So this is really red fruited and fine and elegant. I love it. It's the 18 Tappas. I think it's excellent.
Okay, so from the early days of Tappas in Western Australia, being available around the country, I bought nearly all of the cases that came to Western Australia for my wine stores in those days, long before I got into restaurants. And they were a little bit more robust, a little bit more bolshy in their fruit characters than the refinement of some of the other Henschke wines. But they had their own appeal. a charm would be the wrong word, because I think you'd put that to, and I know that you'd probably put this to another wine, but they had their own appeal, and I loved them. That's why I bought them, and I thought they were fantastic value for money. In this instance, I find the wine, rather than being elegant, I think it's a little bit fuller than some of the others, and but plush in its oak handling, a little bit greater fruit volume and density, still with that hint of bolshiness, which is a little bit different to some wines, and and they are drier. And I rarely use the term brick dust or red brick, but each of these, or some of these, have that character. I really like it. I really like it. I think a little over 100.
100 and, yeah, the prices. Yeah, 115.
So at a little over 100, if I serve this to people in a restaurant, I believe now, or any time in the next 5 or 10 years, and I think they'd love it, get fantastic feedback. I'll have another bottle of that, thanks, would be the call from the table. I really like it. Perhaps the best ever, but the others were pretty good as well.
This is the first that I've been like, oh, that's a really sexy wine. There's kind of like, the tannins are kind of slinky, and the fruit kind of moves from red licorice and raspberry and all that kind of like delicious sort of red space through into, I've heard they've had to change their name now, but you know Redskin Mollies?
Oh, yeah.
It's got a redskin kind of character to it. It's spicy. It's got anise and pepper. It's actually it's a really sexy wine. And in the lineup, I would suggest that's an incredible bargain, actually, for the experience that it's delivering.
Slightly different style to most of them. Enveloping.
Yes,
it's
charming.
It just surrounds you.
I
and
know
takes
you said
over.
don't say charming until this one, because we think this is charming, but actually these are sort of cut from the same cloth stylistically. So moving out of the Barossa Valley and into the Eden Valley, so literally up the road, up the hill. And, you know, I was really taken by the Eden Valley, I've got to tell you, because I don't know what I expected. I mean, I think like Eden and Garden of Eden and kind of lush and green, that's sort of what I had in my mind, but it couldn't have been further. It had like a Heidelberg school kind of vibe, like everything's kind of muted tones, and there's these big gum trees, old, centuries old gum trees, and it's really...
Same areas.
Yeah.
A lot of it. Okay, yeah.
It's really rocky.
Which isn't Heidelberg School, of course, yeah.
But really rocky up there, and the ground's just kind of like spewed out granite rocks all over the place. I saw a koala.
Oh.
You know, we were driving and I was like, shit, that's a weird looking sheep. I looked at it again and I was like, oh my God, it's a koala. It's the first I've ever seen. And he was just kind of padding through the forest. It was awesome. Anyway, the Eden is really distinct.
Were you going to say that he was on his way to Mt Edeltston?
I'm sure he was. The Eden is really distinct from the Barossa. And if you have been to the Barossa and haven't been up to Eden or vice versa, I would really urge you to make the link between the two, because it's astoundingly different for the same zone. So anyway, so this is the 2016 Mt Edeltston Single Vineyard Shiraz from Eden Valley. I love this. I always love this wine. I mean, this has got a proven pedigree of aging behind it. It easily goes a distance in the cellar. It used to be quite a bit cheaper, I think. It's now 250 or 225. It used to be quite a bit cheaper than that, and I still think that, you know, whenever you see wines increase in price, you think, God, I wish I'd bought more last vintage. Actually, I think this still is okay price for the value that you get. You know, I think it's still a good thing. But yeah, this is really a wine you can drink now, but it will also live for decades, which makes it actually a very good value cellaring proposition, in my opinion.
Okay, for me, some of the Mt Edelstons have been pretty good. I too
cracking. Absolute rivers.
Different generation. What we've got is, with this guy, once again, could be the best yet. A different vintage, but another great vintage. Leaner, longer, and just lingers and lingers and lingers. Lovely texturing, dense, beautiful tannins, finish, aftertaste, but just, I won't say beguiling, because I'd probably run to that with this. Yeah. But if someone wants to buy a really good wine in a restaurant, you want to sell it to them, then they want to be able to say, or you want them to say, wow, that is really good. That is worth the money. This is worth the money. It's got appeal. Again, I'm not going to use the word charm, but it is charming. It's because I know Erin loves to use that sort of word on wines like this. This is sensational. It is a really good wine. I really like it, and I'll recommend the pants of it. Love it. Serious length, texture, finish. Love it.
And 16 really brought with it a fruit weight. It was a really kind of, I mean, I think this is quite a muscular wine. There's a lot going on in this glass, which is a really good thing if you're thinking about whether or not it's going to be a great cellaring wine, because all of the ingredients required for aging are here. It's got acid, it's got tannin, it's got fruit. It's all there. This is yet another great release for Mt Ed. I'm really...
So many South Australian Shirazes over the years, you can almost pick them in master lineups because there's a degree of sweetness and richness and juiciness to the middle palate. No pretensions to that here. No pretensions to that here. These are leaner, longer and drier than what we normally see and more classically styled because of that. A lot of the ones that come out of the Barossa, idiosyncratically Australian styled, that doesn't even have to be Australian in style. Serious wine of great length.
It's kind of meaty.
And complexity, yes.
It's in a great way. Like it's got a real added layer of complexity.
Yeah.
So moving into the Hil of Grace vineyard, there's Hil of Roses and 16, Hil of Grace 16 and Hil of Grace 15. This one I've never had before today, so I was really thrilled to try it, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. It is exactly everything and nothing that I expected of it, because this is effectively young vines of Shiraz in the Hil of Grace vineyard, and it's got, I mean, this is going to sound stupidly obvious, it carries the same DNA. You can taste it and go, oh, that it's got the same kind of drawn out tannins, and it's got the same shape. It's got the same density of flavour, but it's overlaid with a real succulent, plush, ripe kind of red fruit profile on the top. All the blueberries and the blackberries and the aniseed and all of the graphite and minerals and things, they come in underneath the red fruit, but it's decidedly red fruited, which I found quite interesting, not what I expected. But in terms of what I did expect, it has got all of the length and the pedigree of the Hil of Grace, which is impressive and awesome and expected.
You know, as always, I listen to Erin's terminology, and I can't and don't have I can't use and don't have a vocabulary like that. But you, in this instance, not that that's an unusual phrase, but you use the term red fruited. This is red fruited, but not only red fruited, it's almost perfumed as compared to the others, and almost compared to other Australian Shiraz.
Yeah.
Very few of them. So enticing, beguiling, quite different, very soft, very gentle, that enormous length that you were talking about, tannins subtle, almost imperceptible,
Yes.
moving to ethereal. So in the years to come, just going to be delicious.
Yeah.
Dinner party 10 years from now, wow the crowds. They will love it.
But also,
love it now too.
Also next week.
Yeah.
This will be, I mean, I'm hesitating because I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if I should tell you on film, but I'm going to anyway. We were given this 15 by a friend of ours, Mark, and we're very grateful to Mark for giving us this bottle because it allows us this comparison. So as a thank you, I'm going to give him the 16, and I'm also thinking I'm going to give him the Hil of Roses too, and maybe the Mt Ed, and maybe the others. I think maybe they can have the lot. But I'm like kind of sad to give that away because it's just so delicious now. I mean, this wine is a special thing, and we'll get to that. But this is just so delicious. I mean, I just want to drink that. I want a glass of it, and then I want another glass of it.
It's unique. There's nothing like that in the country.
It's really amazing.
It is perfumed, and it is delicious. One of the things that you and I were talking about a little earlier, these have been open for about an hour and a half now.
Yep.
They are changing the glass, becoming more open. Many of the reviews that Erin and I have read said that the younger ones of these, of the more serious ones, are better 24 hours later than at the time, and we can.
That's wildly evident.
Yeah, it's changing quickly. And the other thing that the second thing we were talking about, is the amount of sediment in these wines. Many young Australian Reds today, because we're in restaurants, we decant many wines. Many of
Yeah.
I might have taken it all. Try that. Many of Australia's young Reds these days are fined and filtered and cleaned up. These guys still have got a lot of sediment, and especially with a touch of age. But even when they're young, they've got it if you've got a bright enough light to see it in there. So they do need decanting, I think, in our opinion.
Yeah, without question. I mean, you're free to do what you like, as always, but if you want to get the best of them, I would absolutely decant them. And, I like pouring from bottle on a table. Like, I don't like pouring from decanters. I have beautiful decanters. My favourite at the moment, this was not planned, but is this beautiful Jancis Robinson, Richard Brandon decanter. I just love it, right? But I still don't want to pour from this at my dinner table, because you kind of, if you need to reach over your friends, or you get to the end and you've got to pour and bits come out all over. It's just not for me what I like. I like pouring out a bottle, and I also like having it on the table, because if people say, "Oh, I really liked that one," my dinner parties have quite a few bottles on the table, you can just reach for that bottle. So, yes, decant them. If you put them back into bottle, put a phone torch under the decanter as you pour it back into the bottle, because you can see when the sediment starts to pour through. And when it starts to pour through, just stop pouring. If you're worried about wasting it, I mean, pour yourself a glass and drink it, no worries. But that way you take the wine off its sediment, and that's part of the reason why we decant wine. And that would really help. As you can see, this Mt Ed had quite a bit of really amazingly dark colour to it, actually. So, it's up to you. There's no right answer in wine. Let's move into the Hil of Grace wines.
Can I just finish up just quickly on that?
You should.
In a masked lineup of serious Australian Shiraz, the Hil of Roses, I believe, would stand out, and Erin, she's got a pretty good palate, would pick it, I reckon, almost every time. And among the reasons would be its distinctiveness with that almost perfumed nose, and red fruited nose, which I reckon is totally different, almost unique and delicious.
Yeah. So let's move into the 16 Hil of Grace. So this is not released yet, or at least it will be very, very soon, early May 2021. This is the 59th release, the 55th vintage make of this, 55th release, 59th vintage of this wine. They are very old vines, very low producing, low yielding. And what that means is you get this incredible, they work very hard to get a few bunches, and the juice that's in those bunches is very concentrated, and that is evident in this wine. So let's pull 15 and 16 together, just so we can sort of go back and forth, because that's where the beauty of comparison lies. The 16 is this opulent, luxurious, restrained, succulent, fruit-heavy wine. I mean, I was going to say vintage, I was going to say year wine. It is just packed in every single corner with flavour, and it's really a remarkable wine. And then you've got the 15, and this is all just about personal preference. 15 is slightly more towards my preference. It's a bit lighter in body. It's got a really cool kind of bacon fat, maple, blueberry coolie kind of character on the nose. But when you get it in your mouth, it's like, when you turn a mushroom upside down and it's got all those little folds. It's kind of like that. It's like super layered and delicate, and each one is just perfectly formed and within the shape of the whole. I feel like this is a bit of a TARDIS wine, and I love it. I love the 15.
A TARDIS wine.
Yeah, really contained within a small thing, but so much inside. So it's just about which you prefer. I think in the context of Hil of Graces that have been produced in the history of Hil of Grace, I think probably the 15 is the greatest ever made.
Okay, yes, I believe that.
And 16 is up there.
So in the past, Henschke and Australia's greatest Shiraz have been idiosyncratically Australian, and obvious in a mask lineup as compared to the Rhone or anywhere else that produces large amounts of Shiraz. And until the last 15 or 20 years, it was only Australia and France. Now, Italy, the United States, New Zealand, South Africa, lots of places produce 10, 15, 20,000 hectares of Shiraz, but until recently, the last 20, 30 years, that didn't exist. It was only Australia and France, effectively. Then the styles have changed. The Henschke, Prue and Stephen, have changed everything. They've made the wines more internationally styled, which I think these are in comparison to the great wines of the past. They were great wines in the past, truly great. These could be better. So I believe that, as Aaron was just saying, that the 15 is the greatest to date. Now we're looking at the 16 with a touch more power, touch more strength in the fruit, touch more perhaps aging potential. If I can say that, despite the fact that it'll live for 20 or 30 years, I think will live for longer. Subtle structuring, density of flavour, but beautifully textured edges and oak handling, lingering finish and aftertaste. If you're going to have it now and you can't buy, if you can find any of the 2015 anywhere around Australia in your bottle shops or online, buy it. Erin loves it. I love it. Other people love it. The reviews nationally and internationally are sensational. The reviews for this match it. There are 100 points, 98 points, 99-point reviews for this, both around Australia and around the world, even though it hasn't been released yet. But a little bit fuller, a little bit more subtly structured, as I said. Both great wines, slightly different style. I think this will be better in 10 years, but beautifully textured for drinking now. Yeah. Subtle, just satisfying, whereas this is charming.
The 15 is just a really special wine, and I think that when it's not our job to give wines a number, right? Like 98, 99, 50, 90, whatever the number, it doesn't matter. The point is...
Yes, it is.
No, the point is ranking. The point is a ranking.
Valid, good point.
It's not saying, there's, everything's 98 points. That doesn't mean anything. It's saying that there are a couple of wines that hit 99 points, and these are it. The 98-point wines are here, and the context of those are the wines above it and the wines below them. Now, when you start looking at that in a pyramid shape, you understand that the top wines are really, really special wines given the context of the whole, and it's all about context. And that's why we're opening these two today, not because one is better than the other, because it's totally down to preference. They are both exceptional wines. It is about talking about their differences and isolating what it is that makes both special.
So in terms of that pyramid, and what's at the very apex, I have 260,000 tasting notes. Of the Australian ones, I've put that in my equal top 2 or 3 or 4 ever. Just absolutely stunning. 2015, I said before, if you can buy it, get it. I gave that 19.5 points. For me, that is beyond belief. That links it up with that great bin 60A 1962 out of Penfolds. Erin told me off air that it was at $23,000 a bottle at the most recent auction. I reckon that's equivalent in terms of quality. Imagine what it's going to be like in a few years. This guy here is right up there with it. These are amongst the great wines, given, I can't say older vines, but given the improvements in oak selection, with what Prue's doing in the vineyard, with what they're doing in the winery, with new technology, these are amongst the greatest wines that Henschke's have ever made in their extraordinary lineup of great wines over the years. Truly extraordinary. And given that I believe that our greatest Chardonnays, perhaps 90% of the best of white Burgundy, our greatest Cabernet blends, perhaps 90% of the best of Bordeaux, I reckon the best of these match the best of the Rhone Valley, even if it's a slightly different style, because our wine's a little bit fuller, even though these ones aren't that full. Our wine's a little bit fuller, a little bit more generous, a little bit riper, as compared to the lean and, I can't think of other words right now, wines of the Rhone Valley. But in terms of length of flavour,
I can think of lots of
these match them. What's that?
I can think of lots of words to describe the
I know you could.
Yeah.
She could.
Oh, I could.
I reckon these are amongst Australia's greatest Shiraz ever, and I love them. I want to emphasise that. These are amongst Australia's greatest Shiraz ever, and therefore greatest wines ever.
Yeah, agree. I agree. What else to tell you? I mean... I spent sort of 3 days in the Barossa just now, and I've never it was an extremely intensive couple of days. We went to lots of different places, and it was like place on place, And I've never been to a region where they speak more about soils and age of vines. And it's overwhelming, actually. I mean, the oldest Shiraz vines in the world are in the Barossa. The oldest Mataro vines in the world are in the Barossa. These are all on their own roots. This stuff is like living history. Right, it's crazy. It's mind-blowing. If you're a nerd at all and you care about this stuff at all, which of course I do, it's just a mind-blowing thing to drive past vines. You don't even have to get out of your car. That's what I love about Barossa. It's just like right there. There's just history growing out of the dirt there, and we get to drink it, which is really cool. That's what I think it is.
So, I'm sure while you're watching, and if you're watching my face, which my brothers mocked me for, you can see the wheels turning within the wheels. I'm thinking about things as Erin talks and brings things to mind, as my mind jumps around. So with what Erin's talking about, with old vines and that sort of thing, so you've never seen on a Riesling label, old vine Riesling. You've never seen on a Chardonnay label, old vine Chardonnay, because it's irrelevant. It doesn't make any difference. Once it reaches 10 or 12 years of age, there's very little difference. You don't ever see old vine Cabernet on a label. It doesn't make any difference. The flavours don't change. But when you get to Shiraz, and when you get to, and the earliest vines on these were planted in the 1860s, still going today. The earliest vines in the Mt Edeltston, 1920, over 100 years old, still going today. But you get different flavours. Erin and I have been in tastings where we've lined up, say, 17, 18, 20 Shiraz at a time. So you're going to say 7, 13 and 19 are the old vine Shiraz. We unmask them and they are. There's a different character, different flavour. There's greater density per unit of juice. There's more units of flavour per unit of juice in the old vine flavours in wines like Grenache, where you'll see that on the label. You'll see old vine Shiraz on the label, but it applies to that group of grape varieties only. I don't know why. It's not my area to know why. All I can tell you it's there. But you'll never see it on other labels, only on Shiraz, Grenache, Mataro, etc.
And old vine Carignan, as it turns
Same
out.
area.
But
yeah.
It's got to do with the tannins as well, I think. The different old vine tannins have a different feel to them. They're darker, blacker, tighter knit. They carry the fruit more. They're more load bearing. They're really interesting. Look, this is about all we've got time for, and we could actually speak about old vine Grenache, Eden Valley, Barossa Valley, Hil of Grace, Hil of Roses, whatever you like, all day. But we're not going to. We're going to run out of space. John, I just got to tell you, we do these videos for fun. This is fun. Looking at these together, I like this.
Great chance for me, believe me. Catch up.
Cheers.
Thank you.